Well, gentlemen, as we kick off this show, there's two words I have come up with to perfectly kick us off here. Fuck, I think is the best way, because we ended this last edition of the podcast with me saying, can we go a little bit without some sort of negative story in the hockey world? We have had story after story, the arguably biggest stories in hockey last week. Jordan Binnington's melting down again, and Carson Briere, which, hey, by the way, charges are being pressed there. You get what you deserve.
Oh, shit.
And then, yeah, that was just announced about 20 minutes ago. And then, the biggest story in hockey throughout the weekend was another overly negative one that I think we're just going to get this conversation over and done with at the start of the show, and then we're going to move on, and hopefully it doesn't carry like this negative weight through the entire thing. I don't know if we should discuss at the end. I don't know what to do, because I don't want to have another conversation like this again. I want to sit here, talk with my friends about fucking old toys and other random stuff that we always talk about that isn't hockey, which coincidentally is because hockey has been kind of depressing over the past couple of years in certain regards. James Reimer. Let's just get this out of the way. I think everybody, excuse me, listening or watching this is aware of everything that happened throughout the weekend. The basic recap: San Jose Sharks looking to host their Pride Night. Honestly, looking to be the best one. I don't know if any team does as well in terms of executing a Pride Night as well as the San Jose Sharks, and they deserve to still be commended for that, as the night still went on essentially as planned, minus one person. I don't think you can have the actions of one individual take away from that. I also think the Sharks did the right thing. Instead of going the Minnesota route, which we talked about not all that long ago, and just being like, well, we're going to just kind of back out of the whole thing because we don't want people to reveal themselves. They went ahead with it, as they rightfully should. But I mean, God, where do we even go from here? Hi Endo, hi Sin, by the way. Should I continue through this little recap of what happened, or do we think that people know?
I don't care.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. I just woke up. Yeah.
Do either of you care to give thoughts?
I have nothing to say. Fuck James Reimer. Because he's a religious man. I respect the fact that he's religious, but for you to be a supposed Mennonite who, Mennonites are very pacifist in their ways of living, but the fact that you not only signed a pride puck during your stint with the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm pretty sure he wore pride stuff when he was a member of the Maple Leafs with Brian Burke as the GM. And I also think I could be mistaken on that last one. But for you to also preach, pacifism and still wear a military appreciation jersey is absolutely hilarious. I'm not gonna blast someone for their beliefs, but I think you should really reevaluate what the hell you're kind of speaking on. Because if your way of interpreting the Bible is that, then I think it's fucking stupid. That's it.
Sin, any general thoughts on this? I know, like you especially, I mean, this is something that neither of us wanted, or any of us wanted to kind of discuss again, because it's so similar to the whole Provorov thing, and it's just, I mean, we're all tired of this at this point. But I at least need to ask you that question, given that, you are a San Jose Sharks fan.
Yeah.
Your team that was involved this time out.
I'm just going to focus on what the San Jose Sharks did as to spread awareness for Pride Night and for issues surrounding it. Their entire night on their Pride Night, they just focused on tweeting information, including lots of sources about, surveys, etc., polls that that helped and spread awareness for the community. And I think that was really awesome. And I'll just read a couple of them off. The Trevor Project's 2022 National Survey on LGBTQ youth mental health found that 45% of the LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide over the past year, including more than half of transgender and non-binary youth. 73% of respondents believe that youth sports team are not safe space for gay people. Also, 81% of gay men and 74% of lesbians are completely or partially in the closet while playing youth sports. Many fear discrimination from players and officials, and there's a lot more. It's just to spread awareness, and of course, by so many of the replies to tweets like that, it just goes to show you why Pride Nights are important, why spreading awareness is important, and why when, someone of James Reiner's stature refuses to show the tiniest bit of support while releasing a statement that is completely contradictory in itself, and why it's important, and why this still needs to happen, and why the more teams that, because of one person decide to just cancel the whole thing like fucking cowards, the more it'll add to the exclusion that the community feels. And yeah, so I'm really proud of what the organization did as a whole, and the fact that they didn't allow James Reiner to hide. They made him go out, say your fucking piece, and well, he made a fool of himself with that statement, quite frankly. And yeah,
his statement, which again is up on the Sharks Twitter accounts, is one of the most contradictory statements I think I've ever read in my life. Essentially, I've seen a lot of people mention this. You read the last aspect of it. I strongly believe that every person has value and worth, and members of the community, like all others, should be welcomed in all aspects of the game of hockey. The I can't really call it a paragraph, but it kind of, I guess it is, whatever. Directly above that, in this specific instance, I am choosing not to endorse something that is counter to my personal convictions, which are based on the Bible, the highest authority in my life. Look, this isn't a situation where it's like, yes, attack and persecute the Christians, which a lot of people are trying to defend him with, I guess. Like, it's not, for some people, I'm sure it is. For some people, it's just like, yes, let's take shots at Christianity. Here's another great reason to do that. As was mentioned, there are other players in the NHL of the Christian faith, Ryan Donato, chief among them, in terms of what has been circulating, that has had no problem showing the basic bare minimum amount of respect and following up on that idea of welcoming everybody within the community to the game of hockey. God, it's just again, Sid, I think you had the right idea in terms of mentioning the positives, because at the end of the day, nothing really happens to James Reimer aside from people are calling out his I'm going to say questionable beliefs, not in terms of what he believes in a general sense, but in terms of how he's gone about the situation. Aside from him getting called out in the media, nothing else happens. He goes about his life. He's not canceled, whatever. He might have screwed himself out of certain situations where maybe there were teams that were thinking, hey, he's a UFA at the end of the season. Maybe we bring him in. Maybe somebody doesn't now. That's the consequence he gets to deal with. But at the end of the day, nothing essentially happens. The world keeps on spinning for James Reimer. The effect is on the people that he decided to not show that basic level of respect to. And again, it goes to show, like, it's not, as we knew with the Provorov thing, it's not just going to be a Russian situation. And people were able to counter that with, like, well, Malkin wore one. And that's an entirely different conversation on its own. I saw a lot of people saying, if this was a Muslim, would people be saying, dude, if this was Endo, As someone who lives in Toronto and got to watch how the media responded to Nazem Kadri, I want you to answer this question for me. If a Muslim were to have done this and released a statement like James Reimer, what would the response have been to that person? Because my thought is about 10 times worse in terms of any kind of criticism that James Reimer had received.
It would have been the exact same treatment that Nazem Kadri got during the playoff run against St. Louis, if not worse.
God, yeah, it's
if
easy to forget about that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I don't forget that shit. That's my favorite player.
Yeah. Yeah. To Sin's point, I want to shout out Logan Couture. You know, I've made a few jokes at his expense based off of that really weird situation in Toronto where he claims to have gotten attacked because he said he'd vote for Trump. That was a really weird thing. That was, again, there was no real follow-up to that. But for Logan Couture, he released a statement on behalf of the team as the captain of this team, saying every individual has a choice. He made his. The rest of us are going to be wearing the jersey. The organization sees this as an extremely important night. I think a lot of guys in the room are very excited to go out and wear the jersey and celebrate it. I think that hockey really is for everyone. It's an inclusive sport. We want it to be that way. We're looking forward to going out there and putting on the jersey and playing a game. In terms of why it's important, you know, hey, I can only speak for myself. Every individual is different. Every individual has different beliefs. For me, I've always enjoyed these type of games, these type of nights. We usually have one here every year in San Jose, at least to my knowledge. I do think hockey is at its best when it includes everyone. So Logan Couture, captain material, basic human decency on display, which is all anybody really asks for. You had Brian Burke release a statement, who of course right now is the president of hockey operations for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but it is well known, you know, within the hockey world, just how important he feels about, you know, this conversation. And of course, with he and his son Patrick launching the You Can Play project 11 years ago now, in honor of son Brendan Burke, which again, You Can Play specifically targets trying to end homophobia within sport. Him saying, quote, I repeat that I'm extremely disappointed. I wish players would understand that the Pride sweaters are about inclusion and welcoming everybody. A player wearing Pride colors or tape isn't endorsing a set of values or enlisting in a cause. He is saying you are welcome here, and you are in every single building. And of course, you had other people expressing the same thought by saying, well, are you a Shark because you're wearing a Sharks jersey? That's kind of the more meme response and saying the same thing, though. Yeah, this sucks. We literally couldn't go. I think this happened less than a day after our last show, where it's like, hey, can we please have fun stuff to talk about? And we do have a couple of fun things to talk about, but in a general sense, it is extremely, extremely disappointing. It shows how far the sport still has to go, how far we as a people still have to go. That's on full fucking display on a daily basis. Again, it can bring back the question of, there are some people within the LGBTQ plus community that view it as like, okay, let's just fucking stop with this facade that you care because I don't need the reminder. There are others that view it as like, no, let's, you know, fucking keep fighting. Let these people put a spotlight on themselves. And who knows, you know, maybe they start to do some internal reflection and change. In terms of the right way to go about it, who the hell knows? The end of the day, all I can say is I fucking hate that there are people out there who cannot watch a sport without being reminded that some people hate them for their mere existence and just being themselves. It's disgusting. And I'm sorry for anybody that has to fucking go through that. And it's why we're not, you know, going to avoid talking about a topic like this. Trust me, I'd fucking love to. I'd love to just be like, hey, Sin, Connor Bedard, he's dope. And we're going to talk about that a bit later on. But again, there's a reason why this was kind of the biggest story. And there's things I'm sure I'm forgetting. I mentioned Nazem Kadri, Endo. You kind of tweeted it that what exactly did you call it when James Reimer invoked, Nazem Kadri would probably say I'm a good guy?
The my black friend excuse.
Yeah.
I'm not racist. I have a black friend. I'm not homophobic. My Muslim friend can vouch for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I do think someone like Steve Dangle covered it really well on the LFR he did the night that this happened. It's not to inherently say that James Reimer is a complete 100% scumbag piece of shit. That idea that, hey, would he give someone the shirt off his back? Probably. But you have this one brutal flaw that's very difficult to overlook. And it's weird because your entire standpoint is viewing other people as flawed. Isn't that funny how that works? I don't know. Like I said, there's other things we could add to this. I sat here thinking like, oh yeah, no, we'll remember to mention every aspect of it. Just shit sucks. Be better. Individually, the sport as a whole, can we please just fucking be better? And as long as people, as long as you're not hurting anybody, just let people be people. Please, for the love of God. Gentlemen, any other thoughts? Anything that we missed on this? Like I said, I mean, we could talk about this for a goddamn hour, but I don't even know anymore.
Honestly, like the last point I'll make is that the people who are so vocally loud and anti-LGBT, especially now against the trans community, they are a minority. They really are. The majority of people out there don't give a fuck. Just they want you to be happy, live your lives, etc., so forth. The people, like, you look at some of these accounts, half of them bought a blue check mark to seem important. The other one are made recently with barely any followers. There's people out there making multiple accounts to try to shit on you. They are a loud, vocal minority. Yes, they could get power. Yes, they could make, real change happen. I'm not saying, don't take these fucking scary people seriously who want to hurt you. But I am going to say the majority of us love you.
Yeah.
I love you. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you love. I don't care about any of that. And I will support you, and I will fucking fight for you. And if you do feel threatened, use the thing that they'll never take away, the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to have to even think that would be a possibility, but honestly, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, Endo gets to watch from not all that afar. But yeah, no, daily basis, you really start to think like, what path is this going to go down? And it's a shame. It's an absolute shame.
You can kill two birds with one stone. Protect yourself, and then you'll probably get those same people who never want to take away guns to want to start limiting guns. It's the same thing that happened in California when the Black Panthers stood on the steps of that political building with their rifles, and all of a sudden, people suddenly wanted gun control.
It's very true.
They just want to help a brother down. That's all it is. And they revolted, and now they're doing these. I'm pretty sure they're doing the exact same thing. I've seen several things in like the LGBTQI community where they're actually having stuff like this, and they're arming themselves and being like, we're not gonna sit down and not go. That's another conversation for another day. But yeah, just something's got to change entirely with all this. It's really funny how the minority that are yelling about all this stuff think that they're the new minority too. So
yeah,
well, yeah,
that's,
of course.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. My biggest thing as somebody that, again, grew up with both sides of my family coming from a religious background, is just the idea of the picking and choosing. And that was a big response I saw. Endo kind of mentioned it, right? James Reimer, if you are potentially a Mennonite, like wearing a military appreciation night jersey, it goes against your beliefs. And I guess the argument could be, oh, well, that's league mandated. Still, if you believe that strongly in your convictions, should you not take a stand, even if something's league mandated? Take the fine. In a general sense, for anybody that I just can't wrap my head around the idea, because it seems so foreign to me, of choosing to focus the picking and the choosing. In James Reimer's instance, again, the whole idea of not wearing 2 different materials. You do that on a daily basis. You've played games on Sundays. You'll ignore those. You trim your beard. You'll ignore those. But you will choose to, like, it's your choice to follow the interpretation of, if I endorse gay people, I'm endorsing a sin, abominations, whatever the fuck. Like, you are outright choosing to be like, that is something that I am going to follow and not support, but all these other little inconveniences from my life, I can ignore those and I'm still doing okay. That is something I've never been able to wrap my head around. I just can't.
It directly correlates to what inconveniences you versus what inconveniences others. People are much quicker to, to want to enforce something that will inconvenience others and not themselves.
Sure.
Same reason why Dick Cheney was fucking anti-LGBT until his daughter came out, and then all of a sudden he won't speak on it, and he supports her, and her, yeah. There's so many people out there who don't give a fuck until it happens to them. And that needs to stop. There's not enough empathy in this society. And that needs to change.
With that, I think we'll move on to the rest of our show. Like I said, in terms of how to handle shit like this, who the hell knows, man? Once upon a time, a little bit over, about a year and a half ago now, before you guys joined this show, that was the big conversation of like, man, I don't think even then we knew just how much shit was going to come out. You think about it in the past year and a half in the hockey world, just how much fucking nonsense there has been, or how many rocks have been overturned, and getting a real good look at the seedy underbelly of hockey. Whether it be the Kyle Beach story, Hockey Canada, it's been a fucking depressing time, but at the same time, you'd like to think it's a movement towards progress. And that's the thing, like a conversation like this, we can, I don't want to say we're sick of it, because like, oh, we got to talk about this again. No, it's fucking aggravating that we have to talk about this again. But again, what's the best way to handle it? Do we talk about it at the beginning of the show? Do we talk about it at the end? Does it seem like we're trying to say it's not important if we talk about it at the end? I don't know. I'd love to hear from people, except for the people who are like, oh, don't talk about it at all, in which case, no. So, shall we get to some viewer questions?
Yes.
Shall we take that hard right turn? I'll mention what I have to mention a little bit later on because it doesn't feel appropriate right now. Let's get to some viewer questions because we love this part of the show. It's arguably my favorite part of the show. I won't speak for other people. But this first question comes from Starkilled. Will you be doing NHL 2K10 franchises with everyone again soon?
Please.
So the answer's yes, relatively soon, I hope. On stream lately, we've been playing a lot of WWE 2K23. MLB The Show comes out at the end of this week. And then I'm not quite sure, like maybe into May. I want to say June, but Sin's going back to Finland in June, regardless of whether or not we have a sports gamer final to cover. I'll be going if we do have another live event to cover. And I don't even know how long Sin's going to be there. We might not get him back.
A month.
So it's one of those things where, yes, absolutely, we want to do that again. We had a blast with the Ottawa series. We started that Shark series where we fantasy drafted, like everyone got a pick. We tried some different things that didn't quite work. I still like that concept, and we'll probably bring it back. We've talked about maybe even doing other games, if possible. I think, because Parsec allows you to replicate couch co-op. So it should be possible to do like even an NHL 04, although the problem in that is you need position locking to be available, because otherwise you could just pass to someone and you have no idea who it's going to switch to. So we have some things to experiment and work on, but 100% that's a part of the plans for the future, especially with 2K10. I mean, Sid, I don't know about you, but I've heard someone's brought up the Senators series twice to me in the past less than a week in terms of like, oh yeah, you guys should do that again.
It was great, yeah. I think it was a tremendous series. We had a lot of fun with it, and it was just cool. Like, everyone gets one trade and stuff like that, and built the team up. We win the cup. It was so much fun, and it's a great game. Gameplay wise, it's a lot of fun.
I think the highlight though was me having the internet outage at the same time, and then being like, "No, guys, I can do this," and then hopping in off my fucking hotspotting off my phone.
I don't even
to
remember
play
that.
to play one fucking game, and I'm like delayed by like good 5 seconds. And I finally get the one goal. Immediately after I scored the one goal, I disconnect.
That's the best part about that is we could think back and it's like, oh yeah, that happened. So it's definitely something that we'll do again in the future. From Scroopy Nooper's question for the podcast: if you could have one modern NHL player whose career was cut short due to injury return and play healthily again, who would you choose? In other words, the player would likely be playing today if it was not for a career-ending injury. That is a tough one.
That's a very tough question.
That is a very tough question. God, I'm trying to think now who's more recent, because in terms of like historical, Pavel Bure, Cam Neely, Konstantinov in Detroit with the limo accidents. Historically, that's a little bit of an easier question to answer. I mean, Jesus, even Bobby Orr with his knee injuries. Could you say Sidney Crosby? I mean, his career wasn't ended though. His career was impacted by the concussions.
Yeah.
Who would be more modern?
Paul Correa.
Yeah. That's a fair one. That might be the most recent one I can think of.
Maybe Lindros.
Yeah. I'm going to go off the board completely and say Bo Bennett. The dude who could never stay healthy.
That's
that
fair.
Poor guy.
And he still
I
can't.
follow him on Instagram. It's like every other fucking month he's got some sort of ailment or injury or something happening to him. He was a first round 20th overall pick in 2010. Technically speaking, he did win a cup with the Pens, I think in 13-14. Dude, I feel bad for that guy because he looked like he could have been a really good prospect as well too. You know, like in his
that's
draft,
the other issue.
120 points in the BCHL in his draft year. Not that bad.
When you start thinking of prospects, then it's like, well, shit. Who was someone that was highly touted that never got out of the gates? Nolan Patrick.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. There's the most recent example. It could, because his career might be over. Is the word. That's probably my vote. Would be Nolan Patrick. I mean, he was suffering from injury issues before he ever played a game. Yeah. He got hurt in his final season with the Brandon Wheat Kings and just never was really able to kind of get it back. He might be the most recent example that comes to mind. I was going to throw out, and I don't know how modern this is, I was going to throw out Rick DiPietro, at least for a goaltender.
He's still getting paid.
He is still getting paid to this day. And like, how different would the New York Islanders look right about now had DiPietro? I mean, not up to this point. I mean, at this point, it's a little bit too far gone. But what would Rick DiPietro look like at this point had it not been for injuries?
I think we'd be remiss in not mentioning Carey Price.
That's fair. That is fair. That's a good one. I mean, well, geez, yeah, you could go up and down LTIR right now. Shea Weber, Carey Price.
Shea Weber.
Oh, Shea Weber, boy.
Shea Weber, let me tell you.
Garrett Sparks, because he played through his rookie season with the Toronto Maple Leafs with a concussion. Not a lot of people knew about that, but he did. He played through with a fucking concussion. Yeah.
Great. Outside of that, I was looking through drafts. Olli Levy for the Vancouver Canucks only has 41 NHL games played. He had some pretty brutal injury issues coming out of his draft year. And then the guy that I thought of, who is probably my number one, Mark Savard.
Yeah.
What if Max Savard was not headshot by Matt Cook? And what would have happened? You know, his career ended in that 2010 2011 season. He played 25 games in the regular season for the Bruins, didn't play a single playoff game en route to them winning the cup.
Does that mean his name's not on the cup? Because I don't think that'd be brutal.
Goodness. So what it was, reading on the Wikipedia side of things, again, he was diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome in the following. Okay, so here, I'll just read this. So it was March 7th, 2010. He suffered a grade 2 concussion after getting hit by Matt Cook. Of course, Matt Cook was not penalized for it, nor was he suspended or fined. I know, trust me, Colin Campbell, there's a lot of questions about favoritism with the Sun and the Bruins at the time. They didn't fine or suspend Matt Cook. But it did lead to new rules there. Savard was not taken to the hospital following the incident, but stayed behind at a Pittsburgh hotel before returning to Boston the next day. He recovered enough to play in the 2010 playoffs, including scoring a goal against the Philadelphia Flyers. That was amazing. But he was diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome in the 2010 offseason, missed the first 23 games, came back, suffered another concussion. January 23rd, 2011, he got hit by former Bruin Matt Hunwick, and on February 8th, the Bruins shut him down. He was not able to travel to Vancouver, so he was not on the ice or anything like that, but he was at the parade. Despite not having played the required number of games for his name to automatically be included, the Bruins petitioned the league for his name to be on the cup, and he got his personal
Good on the
day.
Bruins. Good organization.
Yeah. I was pretty sure that was the case, but I didn't want to be incorrect. But yeah, his name is on the cup, and who knows? I mean, 2011, when his career ended, he was 34. Still would have had a couple years left, you presume. And God, imagine like that Bruins 2011. Who knows? Who knows what happens? That Bruins team in 2011, if they're not without Marc Savard, maybe they don't make certain trades that you could envision push them over the edge. Maybe they don't get rid of Blake Wheeler to acquire Rich Peverly, and then maybe Blake Wheeler's never on the Atlanta Thrashers, Winnipeg Jets. There's a whole butterfly effect. But yeah, Marc Savard is probably my shout. But it's an interesting question. I'm intrigued to see what other ones are out there that people can think of that we did not. From Ripley, what is your favorite video game soundtrack of all time, both licensed and original? For me, as in Ripley, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 with the licensed soundtrack. Shout out to Hotline Miami as well. Original soundtrack, Chrono Trigger. God. These video game questions are tough, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jesus. Anybody want to go first on this one? Because I'm trying to decide about between 17 different things.
Yeah.
Rock band.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, it does.
Fine, it does.
It's a good one. Ooh, man.
God. I mean, I still play Guitar Hero to this day, so I mean, I might have to cheat for licensed.
Yeah, for me, original music, I think it was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with the Chemical Zone. Is that
Oh, yeah.
It's for that
Sounds
song alone. It is a fucking banger. And it was always rumored that like Michael Jackson helped ghostwrite some of the Sonic songs. I don't know how true that is, but
it was true. So what happened, I think I remember this hearing a story about it exactly, is he did write some stuff on there and the stuff was ready to go, but then like, the kid thing happened and then they kind of had to distance themselves from it. So there's some variations in it. So it's not exactly his stuff, but there's some, it's similar.
Anyway, yeah. That's got to be honestly one of the best original soundtracks of all time. Also, you have to shout out Halo because goddamn,
I knew you were going there.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, part of the immersion for me, it's like, well, a big part of it. I don't know. I'm sure people realize it, but maybe not as consciously. Movies, video games, everything. Music is such a big part of the immersion, and Halo had the sound that fit so well with what the game felt like, or what they wanted you to feel. So yeah, but yeah, For licensed, man, there's so many games. But yeah, for me, it's probably got to be Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Because that was much like Ripley. That affected my music taste so much. Like, I fell in love with Millencolin, Goldfinger. Like,
Mhm.
those that was how I discovered those guys, was because of Tony Hawk. And again, I was a huge punk kid throughout middle school and then the first part of high school before emo took over.
Endo, you got anything, or should I go?
You go.
Okay. To Sin's point about licensed music, sports games being such a heavy aspect of my life for as long as I can remember, my music taste definitely affected by the NHLs, the Maddens, everything else. Even games like Need for Speed. If I had to pick one, it would be NHL 04 as my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. It's still my favorite NHL of all time, and I think EA NHL, that is, and I still think it's the best. But yeah, NHL 04 soundtrack is just perfect. In terms of original, I love the Chrono Trigger shout out because it's amazing. I got a few others. Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, amazing. Shadow of the Colossus, amazing soundtrack. Streets of Rage 2 is perfect. And the two most recent God of Wars, they use music to tell a story like almost no other game out there. In terms of making they're just whoever's behind the music for that game, you are just a fucking wizard in terms of nailing it, whether or not it's a more emotional thing or if you run into a gigantic boss. Spoiler alert for the first God of War, I think it was 2018, so it's been a few years. There's a moment in that game where you run into a fucking dragon. And the music that plays to set the stage for what fucking war you are about to go through, it gives you goosebumps. It's perfect. So, yeah, it's definitely that mix, right? Of you have, in terms of original soundtracks, being able to properly set the stage for that game, and then licensed soundtracks, and just how it's affected my music taste over the years. It's fucking music, man. It affects every aspect of your life, essentially. So,
yeah, I'd also like to shout out World of Warcraft.
Fair.
Like the soundtracks in that game are just, and because again, it's the fact of the matter is, depending on like what zone you're in, like the music changes to like fit the theme of that zone. Like there's just such well done, like such good scoring.
Yeah,
like that in the Elder Scrolls games. Oh, they just kick ass with that.
And did you finally make a decision?
Need for Speed Underground 2 for discovering Skindred and reggae metal and realizing that oh shit, I can vibe with this and not feel like weird. Because young me didn't understand certain things, and I was like, oh shit, black people make metal. And then like I read a bunch of other bands with like prominent black like frontmen and everything.
Killswitch,
all that. Yeah.
And white people make reggae.
I think that's a big one. Trying to think of the other ones. I think a good soundtrack entirely is anything that Martin O'Donnell has worked on. In terms of like Halo, the next like the 12 Days in Fallujah game is supposed to come out in the next like year or two or whatever. And I want to see how that game's going to be because I guarantee the sound design's going to be out of the fucking park.
Shout out to Ripley for a very solid question. That brings us to March Sadness, who says, since March Madness has been, madness, which it has. Have either of you been paying attention to the tournament at all?
No, I get it's from 3-year Letterman.
Best Twitter account out there, 3-year Letterman.
Yes, 100%.
Essentially, the question is, which NHL team, if the playoffs were to start today, so we'll clarify that, would be most likely to make a Cinderella run? So, Eastern Conference, Boston, Toronto, Tampa, Carolina, none of them could be considered a Cinderella run, right? Like, it would be expected. New Jersey, being as good as they are, would be up there, perhaps even more so than the Rangers. And then you would have technically the Islanders or Penguins. I think the Islanders would be most up there because people, when they traded for Bo Horvat, they're like, you're not even going to make the fucking playoffs. What are you doing? Now they're in the top wild card spot. Honestly, though, the Penguins for the Eastern Conference, one more run for Crosby, Malkin, Letang. That's tough to beat in terms of that kind of Cinderella one more run storyline. The West. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, sorry. We're doing East and West.
I figured that'd be easier.
Yeah, that'd be better. So at least the way the question's phrased, which team do you think has the best chance to make a Cinderella run? For me, it's going to be the Islanders because they just play that brand of hockey that can shock people in the playoffs and that can take them far, which it has in the past. And yeah, they could get taken far.
Ilya Sorokin, man. I would have a tough time picking against that guy with the team that plays a more defensive style in front of him come postseason time. Especially, by the way, it was something I was going to mention a little bit later on. Playoff officiating, everybody. Prepare yourselves. It's going to be horrific because it's already horrific now. The primary example, Calle Yarncroke being penalized for being shoved into the goaltender in the Leafs game the other night on St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, just remember, playoff officiating is going to be absolute shit. Be mentally prepared for it. Don't be surprised by it. It's going to be a rough time. So, just wanted to throw that out there. For the West, to first kind of clarify who would be a Cinderella. Dallas? They've had playoff success. Minnesota.
Soda! Hold on, I got it on the soundboard. It's coming. Yeah!
I love
Colorado. Not a Cinderella. Vegas, Los Angeles, Edmonton. Any of those names stick out as like that'd be a Cinderella story if they were to win?
I mean, LA kinda.
Yeah.
Because no one expected them to be that high. Fuck That's Vegas.
I think
Seattle for me has got to be the only one.
I was going to say it's Seattle or Winnipeg. Seattle. And let's be honest, out of the West, if there's a Cinderella story, it's the second year Seattle Kraken.
Yeah. I would, you know what? I hope they win the cup. Fuck Vegas. I don't care about Seattle. They can win the cup. Their fans aren't obnoxious.
They're just high and drinking Starbucks and other stereotypes of the Pacific Northwest.
And getting rained on.
I still kind of wish they went with the Rain City Bitch Pigeons
as
their brand.
They could be perpetually wet. Vegas is just perpetually salty. It's a good balance, Hydrate.
I don't know if that white substance in Vegas is salt sin, but fair enough.
This is an all ages show.
It is. It sure is. Hey, we're marked explicit. Damn it. We have to be. I say fuck every other word.
Yeah, I curse way too much and don't realize it.
I'm trying to stop my cursing. It's not working.
I gave up.
I do very well in terms of not swearing in public. I have a very tough time though when it's just you three sitting in our offices.
Yeah.
Shooting the shit. To just be like, oh yeah, professional. I gotta be like. I gotta pretend like I'm on the Sportsnet desk.
I'm honestly always surprised how you and I are able to switch gears for casts and never swear. Besides the one or two times where you've slipped up or something like that. But it's always been in a situation where we get taken out of the moment by some bullshit happening, whether it's league or disconnects or whatever. And that's the only time really it's ever happened.
Yeah, as far as I know,
I just hit a switch and I'm just professional and don't curse.
Yeah, as far as I know, I have only sworn on broadcast once in 4 years, and it was an NACL game this season where the teams literally both had to join new clubs to be able to play because their normal clubs were having issues just
dressing room
some
glitch. Yeah, it was
EA silly nonsense.
And we had to fill time.
We had to wait 30 minutes to get the
next
game
it was longer than that.
Going. 40, 45,
it was closing in on an hour. We didn't fill the whole time. Obviously, we had breaks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but there was.
So like you said, if you get dragged out of the moment like that, it's just, fuck it.
Yeah,
you can only hold on for so long. But yeah, thank you everybody for the questions. 46 minutes into the show, we should mention, and like I said, it didn't feel appropriate after our initial intro conversation, but we should mention, as always, that this podcast is brought to you by our lovely friends at manscaped.com. You can go to Manscaped right now and use the code Tougie, that's Tougie, for 20% off your order and free shipping from our friends at Manscaped. Whether or not it is the lovely Lawnmower 4.0, the best you can get in terms of groin and body grooming trimmers, the Beard Hedger and the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, the Weed Whacker for those pesky nose and ears hairs, whatever else you might need, Manscaped is the place to get the best tools for the job. So again, go today. Get what you need. Use code Tougie as a thank you to them for sponsoring the show. And let's be honest, you'll be thanking yourself by the end of it. You will be. I promise. Even if it's a beard comb, as Sin can attest to. So, gentlemen, with that, as mentioned, there's not too much else to talk about. There's Devin Levi signing with Buffalo, which is great for Buffalo.
Yay.
There was the New York Rangers absolutely destroying their opponents on the weekend, including crushing Nashville. They were up 6-0 at the end of the first period last night. I think they scored, 4 goals on 4 shots.
Oof.
Carolina beat Philadelphia in overtime after tying the game with 0.3 seconds left. There's just been some kind of silliness, especially amongst teams that aren't exactly playoff bound. Endo mentioned it to us when we first got in this call, but we didn't mention Florida kicking the shit out of Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I got to be honest, like Montreal, like hey, trust me, I love a good joke at Montreal's expense. I think people know I don't actually hate them. But even I can't do it when you look at their injury list. Holy hell. For the record, cap friendly. Christian Dvorak out for the season. Joel Armia, unknown duration. Kirby Doc, indefinite. Caden Gooley, unknown. Jordan Harris, day-to-day. Cole Caulfield, out for the season. Slavkovsky, out 3 months. Jake Evans, 10 weeks. Gallagher, 3 weeks. Monahan, 2 weeks. Byron, unknown. Jackeye, out for the season. And Carey Price, indefinite.
You know what's crazy?
They're mostly an AHL club right now. I can't possibly make fun of them for getting lit up. I can't do it.
Slavkovsky actually went back to, I think he went back to his home country to finish his high school. There was a picture on Bar Down of him sitting in the back of the class, just kind of like chilling back, like I hate the fact that I'm here. And my comment was, they didn't know I went first overall.
I saw that picture too. It was tremendous.
So good.
So that just kind of leaves us with fun stat time. As always, we love stat time around here. And, I mentioned him, Connor McDavid. When did we not talk about Connor McDavid? He became the first NHL player to record 130 points in a single season since Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr in the 95-96 season. I was 2 years old. Endo was not yet on this earth.
I was a sperm.
McDavid also becomes the first Oiler to accomplish the feat since Wayne Gretzky in 1987-88. It's ridiculous. Now, I saw another stat here, and it's GSVA, which is Game Score Value Added. As described by The Athletic, it's a catch-all stat that kind of measures production, play driving, and a player's usage. That's all factored in. Connor McDavid leads the league with a 5.9. The next highest is Matthew Tkachuk at a 4.5. The next highest for a center is 3.9, which is Elias Pettersson. Granted, you can sit here and look at different numbers to make it a bit more ridiculous, but the bottom line is Connor McDavid, surprise, surprise, above and beyond everyone else. And Sin, you tweeted it on the weekend. Like, this is a special time. We've talked about that on the show. This is a fucking special time to watch somebody like Connor McDavid do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, too, the defense race a little bit closer. It's Adam Fox at a 3.9, Hampus Lindholm and Brent Burns at a 3.8, Erik Karlsson at a 3.7. Just to show you how kind of big the discrepancies can get between different positions. Sidney Crosby clinched his 18th point per game season in his 18-year career. Only Wayne Gretzky has averaged a point per game in more seasons than Sidney Crosby, and he has 19. It is a special time.
Break the record now, Crosby, before McDavid does it, because he's going to.
Yeah. I mean, so long as there's no major injuries. But even then, I mean, I wonder if there's a minimum games played for that. I mean, obviously the longevity in general is a factor, but just that idea.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, just that idea of like, well, Crosby obviously didn't have to play the full seasons to be on that list, but was still over a point per game in the seasons that he did play. And the last thing to note, because why not, we wanted to get the negative in regards to the Sharks out of the way, even though there were still positives involved. This could be an outright positive because this man is going to be a San Jose Shark. Connor Bedard scored his 70th goal of the WHL season over the weekend. He now has 42 goals in 26 games since coming back from the World Juniors.
It's fucking absurd.
From Cam Robinson, Bedard is the first 17-year-old CHL skater to record 70 goals in a season in over 25 years. He is just the third ever WHLer to do it and the 20th all-time in CHL history. That's going all the way back to Mario Lemieux and Pat LaFontaine scoring 84 and 104 in the early 80s. Because LOL.
At a time where it's easy as fuck to score.
At a time where goalies didn't butterfly.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can we say? I'm going to keep hyping this up. We got 3 more months of this. Well, 2 more, technically. And about a month and a half even until the lottery is decided.
Yeah.
I'm trying like hell, Sin, to will this into existence.
Like I said, my birthday
points.
wish, which coincidentally my birthday is a day before the lottery draw. I'm wishing for that so hard. I'm trying to manifest this into existence. It might not happen. Odds are it won't happen. But again, it would be goddamn. What a time for the Sharks to have their first organizational first overall selection.
So here's hoping that happens. Some people will disagree, depending on what team you are a fan of. And here's hoping, I'm going to try this again, that when we rejoin you later on this week for our second show, that it can be nothing but old video game talk, how sick it's going to be that Connor Bedard's going to be a Shark, and sunshine and rainbows, damn it. I'm hoping at the very least. Gentlemen, with that, we will wind things down for today. Endo Mills, what do you have going on?
I was gonna record an announcement video, like an update video, but I realized I'm stupid because I have like 80 followers on YouTube. So it's like I'm just yelling at a broom closet. So
dude, I used to do channel updates with 30 subscribers, man.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like I realized that I'm like, yeah, and I realized like that's a stupid idea. Like no one really cares.
No, they do. They're subscribed to you, man. Like they're your community. It doesn't matter how big they are.
80 people. I mean,
who the fuck cares?
I care.
You have
Obama
to,
cares.
Okay, fine. Like you can care.
So what
but
I have a bigger reach here than I do on that channel anyway.
Yeah, but it's not your reach.
The video's up and ready to go. Like I just push it and put up there. Basically, what I'm gonna be doing is focusing more on single player and sports games and just kind of doing the offline experience because that channel's been dormant for 3 months, and my last video, you see, did pretty decent actually. Not gonna lie, 594. What?
That's why you do the update video on your channel as well, to say, hey, people who are still here, I see you.
Oh, it's like a see you. It's like a 30-second long video. So I might have just put it up there right now. Fuck it. Why
Was
not?
it a YouTube short?
No, just a 30-second long video.
Why'd you put a 30-second video and not make it a YouTube short?
I don't fucking know. It's not even uploaded. It's sitting on my fucking computer right now, just kind of there. Like, do you want to upload me? Not really. Because
Oh, Endo.
it's like I don't want to waste people's time in watching a 30-second video on a guy who's got like five fucking videos on his channel with like 80 subscribers. I don't want to waste people's time.
Let's see. When was my first update video?
I'm not even scrolling that far back because it was in like 2014 and 2015.
If you go to your dashboard and look at your videos uploaded, you can reverse sort by date since it doesn't let you do it on the YouTube homepage anymore. I mean, I had, from the looks of it, my first update November 5th, 2015, and I started uploading in September. I would not have had that many subscribers at all.
Bro, my first ever video has 1,000 views.
My first has 243 because it was FIFA.
Mine was Live the Life. It was Live the Life.
Oh my
in
God.
NHL 24. Charlie Conway makes his debut. That's right. I made a two-way forward called Charlie
I
Conway.
lied. Boys, you want to know how me I've always been? September 19th, 2015. NHL 16. Early problems / rant.
So on brand.
The man has not evolved.
2 days later, NHL 16 rant update. Oh God, that's whew. One thing that cannot be said about me is that I've changed in that way. There has been growth and evolution for me as a person, but when it comes to ranting about NHL, I'll never change.
Yeah.
Sim, what do you got going on?
I just started a new franchise mode, the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Hey,
We just tanked for Bedard, and we just had the draft video, so you have to see what happened in that one.
yeah.
Because obviously, because we were tanking, we ranked 6th worst. Because our only two fucking players that were any good was Goudreau and Laine, and I guess Werenski. And Goudreau had like 84 points. I don't know how, because at one point we lost Boone Jenner too. I had a 76 first line center, and Goudreau was still like LOL. But yeah, it's great. So definitely tune in if you wanna watch a nice little franchise mode on my YouTube channel. It's In for the Win Productions.
There you go. I have my Chicago series currently ongoing. In terms of tanking, it was hit or miss. Kind of like you, able to build a very, very bad team. But that doesn't guarantee much with the lottery.
Yeah, you got to have a very bad team, but then also a sub 80 goaltender. Because you put an 83 in there, that motherfucker's going to go off.
Yeah.
Because 83 goaltenders are the best goaltenders in NHL games.
I think I had a 76 and finished last. Pretty good.
There you go.
Arvid Soderblom, the man. Yeah, like I said, streaming WWE, going to be streaming a lot of MLB, both franchise mode and some Road to the Show. I might go for that. I might go for that home run record with Torf this year. We might just continue it up and
play the
go
whole thing.
for it.
You have to let me know when you start that because I'm 100% tuning into those streams.
Like Friday.
I love when you play Road to the Show.
Like, dude, so last year, I don't know what happened, but for those who watched on stream, I was playing on the highest difficulty and still hitting bombs consistently.
You were cracking.
I remember that.
I have never played that well at a baseball game, and hopefully I haven't lost that vision and timing. That might be my biggest claim to fame ever, is somehow I was just destroying worlds.
Yeah.
I hope I can do it again this year.
You're on like Legend Plus. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's like, I didn't even know that was a difficulty. But here it was. Ah, God. All right. With that, everybody, again, thank you very much for listening and watching. We will see you later on this week. Goodbye.